Well, hello there. My name is Sandy Alnock, and I welcome you to day 4 of the 24 Tags of Christmas. It's a series of 6 videos, and you can visit video number 1 to find out how you can qualify to win one of these tags as a prize in my giveaway. Let's get started on today's tag, and this is going to be 4 tags that are all going to be matchbook tags. I'm going to use this WPlus9 set with these festive little Christmas lights. We're going to stamp them in distress inks, and we're also going to use unicorn ink from Hero Arts to make them look like they're glowing on Kraft paper. And they will be little matchbook tags as well, so they're going to have another use that I will show you at the very end of this video. So I'm scoring at 3/4 and 4 3/4. Very simple measurements, and I'm not going to fold them until after I get all the stamping done. I'm going to leave them all flat because I'm going to stamp on both sides of the tag. But first I'm going to start with the sentiments. These sentiments in the set come with 2 sections. One is a big word, and I'm going to stamp the big word in unicorn white, and then I'll stamp the little ones in a few minutes in red. Now I'm cleaning them in between with an absorber, which has become a thing that just sits on my craft table all the time now, because it cleans every last little bit of extra ink off of my stamps for me and does a really good job of it. So I'm going to stamp the jingle, and one of the things I love about these stamps is that the jingle, you can see the J is a little on the kitty wampus side and stuff, and each one of these has a little bit of playfulness to them, so a crazy stamper like me who doesn't seem to ever get anything straight can do this without looking like I need tools in order to make everything perfectly straight. So I'm gonna stamp the last of the 4 sentiments here, and then start adding the secondary words. And they come straight, but I'm going to wave them on my block so that they end up being a little more playful as well. And I can stamp it in the red, the fired brick color, and pop that little Christmas on there. I'm going to put each one in a slightly different place, just kind of playing with what's going to be readable and still work really well on my little tags. Jingling all the way, and happy holidays. Now, some of them seem to work better with the sentiment, kind of across the word, and some otherwise. Whatever you want to do works fine with these because those sentiments work great together. I'm going to start stamping the lights now in Mowed Lawn, and the Mowed Lawn is a really great green ink on this craft. I love how it looks. And I'm going to start on each one of these with stamping right next to the sentiment, because then I can line up the important lights that are right next to the words themselves. Make sure they land in the right spots. Again, I'm stamping the whole tag. You could stamp just one spray of lights across this and get done a whole lot faster. The stamp set also comes with an extra little piece of string, the string for the lights. It comes with an extra plain light, the outline light, and that means you can add just a single light here and there and fill in some spots. And look how fast a stamper I am, ha ha ha. Alrighty, so now we're going to start with the solid stamps, because the set also comes with a solid little bottom connector thing for each of the lights, and a solid lamp, the little globe bulb thing. And what I'm doing is stamping it in walnut stain ink, and I think it's walnut stain, and I'm trying to stamp them all, the ones that are in the same direction at the same time, because then I don't have to turn my wrist constantly or turn the block constantly in order to stamp them. And you can see that more clearly here when I'm doing the white, because I'm understamping this white before I stamp everything else. And you can see I'm doing all the ones that are pointing upward, and then I'll just turn the paper and do all the ones that are pointing upward, and then I'll turn it another time, and it just saves a little bit of extra physical effort. You could do this technique without doing this understamping, but this seems to really help make the color pop when it's on top. Now I've got a sponge dauber, a little finger dauber, and I'm just going to tap over top of each one of the bulbs. And I'm even doing some of that ink right over top of the little bases that I just stamped as well, because that's how it would work in real life. The light would come out and dim those bases a little bit. So this really makes that whole area around each of the little lights shine and glow. And having the understamping underneath of there just adds an extra layer of the white so that when we stamp with the color it works better. But you could get away with just doing a whole lot of this daubing of the color and then stamp on top of that, and you might be able to make that work. But I really love how this just, you can already see the little puff balls glowing here, and really fun little technique for these little tags. Next, I'm going to clean that puppy off because we're going to start stamping in color. And I'm going to start with my red, and I'm going to stamp just a random bunch of these. And I'm going to try to stamp them so that there's not a whole lot of reds in one spot, and I can really spread the color out. And I'm going to speed this up a little bit as we go. Just going to try to turn them and do different ones in different directions so that I can get them facing different ways and make the colors look even more festive when they're all spread out from each other. And one more red one. Clean that off and then go to my pink. Now this picked raspberry is close to the red, so I want to make sure that I don't have those too close to each other, so doing them at the same time means I can spread them out the most when I'm kind of looking at them as a pair. And I know here on the video you probably can't see a lot of difference in the color, but you can a little bit more in real life. It adds just a lot more fun to it to have a little bit of pink and not just a traditional red. Now you can see my ink pads are starting to pick up a little bit of that white ink. So every time I stamp it, the ink is still a little bit wet on the surface. I'm ending up with a little bit of wet ink on my ink pad. You can easily take a little paper towel and wipe that off when you're using Distress ink pads. Be careful of the surface of your ink pads if you're using something else. These Distress ink pads really withstand a lot. They're made really tough, so you can do something like wipe them off with a paper towel like this. But some other ink pads, chalk ink pads I think especially, would potentially be damaged if you wipe them off. So just be careful. I think that's why I chose using the Distress inks, because I can really do crazy things with the ink pads and be able to salvage them if I do any damage by putting some white ink there. The Distress inks also, when they go on here, and I tried some other inks and they didn't quite do this, they almost look transparent and glassy. So when you get to see some close-ups of this, I'll show you how glassy they really look. This Peacock feathers especially is a really nice glassy looking color, so much so that I decided to do one that was going to be all peacock feathers because it was just such a fun color to see against the white and the Kraft. And it's fun and it's bright, and whatever it is in the ink that makes it just look like it's glassy and glowing was really fun. And so then we'll finish it off with some blue and throw in some little sparkle of that blue color all around the whole thing. And I opted to do a different kind of combination on each one. The first one on the left is the one you just saw that I did one with all white, so I re-stamped the white on top. So it has 3 layers of white. Then there's the, I'm doing the adjusting of the color on the sentiment on the Peacock Feathers one, and then the one on the right hand side is all green and red. And the ink does sit in pools a little bit on a few of them, and I'm just taking a little paper towel, wrapped around my finger, and just wiping that little excess off, and it really smooths them out and makes them like super flat color, and they look very glassy that way. On one set, I thought I would try using just a white pencil and make a little highlight. And if you make your highlight along the length of the little bulbs instead of the width of them, the breadth of them, it tends to look a little more natural. So I'm doing it either on the top side or the right side, depending on which direction my little lamps are pointing. And I've put my glossy accents into this tiny bottle. These are precision bottles that are meant for quilling, but the little cap comes off and hooks on there to get out of your way. And it's got this super tiny nib that works really great. I have been using this for a couple of weeks and I haven't found it to gum up at all, which is fantastic. I haven't had to stab it with a pin or anything to try to get it to open up. So here's how the little tags close. They just fold up that way, and we're going to poke some holes in the very top to make a place to put the string. I'm just going to poke 2 holes through it. And when I first did this, I thought, well, let me just put some adhesive in between that the place where that folds so it will stay shut. I found out a few minutes later that it didn't stay. So this craft paper, this is the Ranger craft that I'm using, that it didn't stick very well after all the torture that I'm doing to it, I think. So I'll show you an alternate. So in order to thread my twisted rope from May Arts through here, this is really cool twine. It's thicker than normal twine, and it's also very smooth and silky. It's made of something completely different than the cotton twine. Really, really fun. But in order to get it in there with these ends that fray so quickly, I had to put some tape around it to twist it and then shove it through. And I will show you in just a moment how I do this little knot. I'll show you a little clearer and slower, because I actually had to go back and look at this again to find out how I did it when I was trying to do my other 3 tags and try to do the same knot. So here is where I've put my little, I used half a power tab on each side of the tag, and that totally sticks to pretty much anything, so it holds it really, really well. So I just peel those pieces off, close her up, and then I'm ready to tie my little string, my little twisted rope. And like I said, this is fantastic, fantastic twine. What you do is make a loop, and you make a large loop, and I did it with like 3 fingers in my left hand, spin it around and turn it, grab the end of it, and pull a loop of that end through. I'll show you again. And it makes this knot that you can then undo very quickly and easily. So if for some reason you want to reuse it, you can pull it out and reuse that piece of string. And so I'll undo it and show you again and make the movements more exaggerated. So grabbing it with my fingers and wrapping it around, turning it, and then grab the end while holding it still with my right hand so I don't lose that very tip of the ribbon, and then pull it through. So it's a loop going through a loop, and you can tighten it so it'll hang from a Christmas tree or something really easily, or from a gift. But you can also just tug on it a little bit and it will undo your knot very easily and come. So this also doubles as a gift card holder. You can just put a little tiny bit of adhesive in there in order to hold a gift card inside this cute little matchbook tag. Isn't that fun? It'd be great to hide these on the Christmas tree for Christmas morning when the family comes down and they all get to go to the movies. Maybe a movie card would be a really fun one to share with your whole family. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. If you'd like to watch one of the others in the series, please click on one of these. And the annotations for the next 2 will be live in the next few days. If you'd like to see stills of each one of these tags and close-ups of what the ink actually looks like finished on the tag, please click on the 24 tags of Christmas words in the center, and that will take you to my blog post. And I will see you tomorrow when we are going to do some Christmas monsters. Oh my gosh, they are so fun. Great tags for wee little kids. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.